Hi, I'll start with a question. How can a person communicate all or everything that person is thinking, feeling, everything that the mind is doing, all the thoughts that occur to this person? How does he or she communicate all those concepts, all those thoughts? And the answer to that is language, words, sentences. This is something that I've been pondering about for quite some time, and I have been thinking about how to actually put it into words. Because the only way I can communicate all the ideas, all the concepts, all this messaging that is happening, the only way I can communicate or even address them, even if I don't necessarily mean to communicate it to you, how do I actually communicate those thoughts that occur even to myself? How do I journal about them? How do I discuss them? I can be absolutely quiet and just absorb all these fantastic concepts and ideas and insights I keep getting. But I have only this thing called language and words and sentences that I can use to articulate them, to express them, to share them with everyone. So this session is just about language, about words. I'll start off with something that kind of one of the first things that I did when I first got into this journey of call it, personal development or actualization or, attaining higher consciousness and all these things. So these concepts are a result of a lot of background work that has gone on for the past 5 years. And one of the first things I did was come up with affirmations. When I first read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari 5 years ago, it was in March 2012, when I read that book, there was an affirmation in that book which was wonderful. And I'd like to share that with you, if I may. And it goes like this: I am more than I appear to be. All the world's strength and power rest inside me. And this is one of the first affirmations that I'd ever heard of. I mean, the concept of affirmations is something, I'm sure I've heard it sometime in the past, but it never registered. So I was doing this for weeks and weeks and weeks. I would say months and months. For the first 6 to 9 months, I would do it every morning, and started creating some of my own affirmations. Things like I'm confident, I'm disciplined, I'm healthy, I'm courageous. But now, 5 years hence, I was just pondering about all these things, and I was thinking, maybe what are these affirmations? And now I'm getting an understanding of what affirmations actually are. Affirmations, when done continuously over and over and over again, what happens is you go beyond the actual words, because that's the whole idea of an affirmation. You go beyond words, and then you go beyond the thought. You go even beyond the feelings, because what then happens is you actually get into a state of mind of that affirmation. It's a way of being, it's a way of functioning. You just become that affirmation. So it's like when I say I'm confident, I'm courageous, I'm disciplined, I'm confident, I'm courageous, I'm disciplined, and if I say that over and over again, hundreds and hundreds of times, what happens is the words don't mean anything at all. It's the feeling that is taken over, and then you repeat it over and over again. The feeling doesn't, you go beyond the feeling aspect as well, and you go into a state of being. So you just become this very confident, courageous, and a disciplined person. That's the power of affirmations. So this session is actually not about affirmations. I'm just talking about the power of words, the power of language. Everything is language, is words. Could be any language. I'm using English language to do this video. We don't think in language. We just think. The thoughts just come to us, occurring to us, than we actually thinking about them. That's absolutely wonderful. It's strange because we think that we are the ones who are constantly thinking. Yes, that is right, but there is always a certain thought that occurs to us. Not always. There are many times that thoughts occur to us. Like what I do when I get these new ideas, new thoughts, new concepts, I that information. I just happen to get these thoughts, and I just share them. And the only way I can share all these ideas is by using language, is by using words, sentences, putting all letters together, creating words, and then creating sentences in a meaningful manner that is understandable, that makes sense, and that is understandable. The other aspect is it comes down to your own understanding of those words and how open you are, how accepting you are, how radically open-minded you are in listening to all these things, and how much you're willing to absorb. So it again comes down to your level of understanding of that language. Things that I was grateful for. And that's another thing that I realized much later, many years later, that the words thank you don't mean anything at all. I'm thankful and grateful for my family. I'm thankful and grateful for the career that I have. I'm thankful and grateful for the good health I have. I'm thankful and grateful for all the joints in my body that are functioning perfectly. All these sentences don't mean much, because you keep doing it over and over again, that it becomes, you go beyond the words, you go beyond the thoughts, you go beyond the feelings, and you actually are in a state of gratitude, you are in a state of thankfulness. Words and language is an amazing tool. It helps us get into these states of being, whether it's a state of being of gratitude, whether it's a state of being courageous, whether it's a state of being of love. That's what it's all about. Sorry, that's just another word. It doesn't mean anything unless you go beyond the word, beyond the thought, beyond the feeling, and you're actually sorry. Otherwise, it's absolutely, it doesn't mean anything at all. Even the word yes doesn't mean anything at all. It's the intention behind it that is more important. Recently I was just thinking about when a child is growing up, from an infant to when they start to pick up words, the child's brain is absolutely empty, vacant, and then the child starts to pick up language from the parents, from the people around them, and the child starts to pick up words and language. The child doesn't learn any language by translation. The child just picks up language. This is something like when I was learning German, many years ago. I was learning German from Goethe Institute, and the way they teach it is by direct method, which is right from day one, first semester, first day in class, the teacher speaks to you only in German. And it was a fantastic method of teaching a language, because it's the same concept. We don't learn a language as we're growing up. We don't learn a language with translation and interpretation. We learn it just by understanding the context of each word and each sentence. So when we say no to a child, the child has got a very curious mind. The child is out of curiosity doing a lot of things. And we as teachers or parents say no to a child. Don't do that. No. Look at the kind of circuits that is being created in the child's mind. You're basically saying, stop being curious. Be like everyone else. Be like me. Instead, all we can do is for the child to really explore and experience life in its fullest, is to just watch the child, be supportive, be around them, just watch them, ensuring that they are safe. But the more we say no to the child, basically telling them, stop being curious, stop being creative, be like me, be like everyone else. Words, language, we use words that can either grow a child, develop the child in its entirety, fully, completely, or disallow them to be creative and curious. What are some of the other words? Marriage, family, father, mother, child, son, daughter. All these are words, but they really don't mean much. But what is more important here is the understanding of the relationship. What are some of the other words? ailments, any kind of like diabetes or asthma. All these are conditions. The word diabetes, the word cancer, it's just another word. It is. But the moment we hear the word cancer, the moment we hear of diabetes, it is stress and grief that we go beyond the word diabetes, beyond the word cancer, and we even go beyond the actual feeling aspect, and then we get into a state of being a diabetic, being a cancer patient. What are some of the other words? Friday, Monday. The two words that kind of separate the whole world. TGIF. Why not TGIM? When I was thinking about the days of the week, there's basically no the concept of calendar is something that was created maybe a few hundred or maybe a few thousand years ago. I'm not sure. But how can we say the 1st of January is actually the 1st of January? It's just another word. Even numbers are just words. The 1st of January or the first day of the first month can be anywhere. Today could be the first day of the first month. But we go by the calendar. If you look at it, if you took away the calendar totally, what remains is just the night becoming day and day becoming night. That's it. That's the only thing we can see. But the concept of months doesn't even... I mean, if you looked at it from the universal point of view, from the cosmic point of view, there is nothing called months or weeks or Friday or Monday. It's just days becoming nights and nights becoming days. That's pretty much it. The other thing that we can actually see, visually see, is the changing of the seasons. And what happens is when you go through a certain number of seasons, where in some countries there is summer, monsoon and winter, and when summer comes back, we know, okay, the earth has actually gone around the sun once. I live in Melbourne, and in Melbourne we've got 4 seasons in it, even in one day. And the cycle is summer, autumn, winter, spring, and then back to summer. So we know the earth has gone around the sun once. Another one, words are countries. India, Bharat, Hindustan, Pakistan, Deutschland, Germany. Now, it's all based on language. And again, if you looked at it from a point of view of Earth, there is actually no country. The names of countries are only in our minds, created by us. That part of the world is Asia. That part of the world is North America. And there are different countries in North America. There are different countries in South America, in Africa. But there are actually no borders and no countries. John Lennon, beautifully, in that song Imagine, he says that. Imagine no country. Imagine no religion. Another country, Yugoslavia, doesn't exist anymore. USSR, which is now Russia and tens and tens of other countries. Even in India, there are, when I was growing up, there were 21 states, and today it's like 30 or something, I'm not sure. How does it matter? Labeling a certain part of Earth, giving it a name that this is that state in that country, and flags. So much of separation, isn't it? What else? Even names of trees and plants. And scientific names. Oh, how does it matter? How does it matter if we called a rose or just admired its beauty? Animals. How does it matter what we call a certain animal? The names of these animals have been created by us. We call a dog, or a cat. But how does it matter? It's just another life form, exactly like us. What else? Age, numbers, all just words. Even concepts of I, you, he, she, they, all that, just words. Let me ask one question and try and answer it without using words. And the question is, what am I? Not who am I, what am I? And I would like you to understand this question and try and answer it without using words. Just in your mind. What happens to your name? No, that's again a word. What happens to where you come from? What happens to the gender? That's gone as well. Male, female, those are words. What happens to this thing called profession? The thing that you do? That's gone because that's words. What about your interests, your hobbies that you have? That doesn't mean anything because all that will have to be explained using words. If you say, I am this body, body is another word. What are you without words? And that's when we begin to understand everything. Because at the end of the day, we are all here on this planet for a few decades, or a few centuries if you like to hear that. But I'm just trying to understand the whole concept of life and living and the concept of the self from a point of view of open-mindedness, of acceptance, of not judging or labeling or naming. What are we? What am I? The way I look at it is I'm just a living entity. I'm just a living entity like everyone else. And when I say everyone else, I mean the animals, the birds, the plants, the trees. Every living entity is what I'm part of. And I'm part of evolution. That's it. I'm just part of evolution, like every insect, every bird, plant, tree, fruit, vegetable. As these living organisms have evolved, I have evolved too. We are no different from any of these species. Call me a living entity, call me a soul, a spirit, energy, but that's what we are. Something that cannot be labeled, cannot be judged, cannot be named using words from any language. Even if you look at the greatest books, or the best movies, or the fantastic songs that have ever been written, what's the basis of all that? If it's a movie, it has to be a fantastic script using words, language. If it's a book, whether it's a religious text or a spiritual text or just a very, very good fictional book or a non-fictional book, everything, all it has is words. And words are fantastic to be able to communicate ideas and thoughts, but that's not the be-all and end-all of it. Even if you were to write, if you were to journal, all we can do is just use words. Even me, I speak a few languages, but none of them are perfect. I know only a certain number of words in any language. So then how can I express myself fully? I mean, even the difference between me and some of the fantastic speakers I've listened to, the only difference between them and me is my ability to use language. You know, I've been following a lot of people and listening to a lot of people over the past 5 years or so. It started off with Robin Sharma and Rhonda Byrne. I also listened to people like Jim Rohn and Sharon Pearson from the Coaching Institute. And as I was evolving, as I was reading more, I started listening to people like Wayne Dyer, like Dr. David Hawkins, Eckhart Tolle, Nisargadatta Maharaj, Krishnamurti, Ramana Maharshi. Who else? Sadhguru from recent times, Leo from actualize.org. Leo is such a fantastic speaker. The words and his ability to express thoughts and ideas are fantastic. But recently I was listening to one of his episodes and he was talking about contemplation. And in that episode I felt it was more like a lesson in English language than anything else. The difference between contemplation and introspection and understanding, it doesn't mean anything at all. What is more important is what's actually happening internally, without the usage of words, without the usage of language. Otherwise it just comes down to, who is more red than the other. Anyone who has a very flowery language can impress anyone. I don't have a flowery language at all. I just try to articulate with the best of my abilities. And how I come across to you is dependent on your level of knowledge of words. And as I was evolving, I was even looking into the organized religion stuff. What most of the world called religions, like Buddhism or Christianity or Islam, even Hinduism. And I read the Bible, most of it, the Quran, most of it, Dhammapada, most of it, and the Gita. And what I was doing was I was just gathering words. I was just understanding all this by understanding language. And again, even though most of these texts or these scriptures talk about pretty much the same things, it comes down to my own level of open-mindedness and my own ability to understand that and interpret that in a certain manner from my own perspective. So it comes down to my own level of consciousness, my own level of awareness and open-mindedness that I will be able to understand those concepts. So I'd like to finish off the session once more reminding you, just try asking this question, what am I, and try to answer it without using language or words or any sentences. Thank you for listening. Thanks for watching. Take care. Until next time.